I reluctantly agreed to spend Christmas with my estranged family after 7 years of no contact. Despite my better judgment, I found myself buying thoughtful presents for everyone clinging to a faint hope for reconciliation. The memories of past trauma resurfaced as I packed the gifts into my car, each one wrapped with care and expectation. As I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home, familiar anxiety crept up my spine. With a deep breath, I stepped out, my arms full of presents and my heart heavy with nervous anticipation. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever had to cut toxic family members out of your life. My name is Clayton, a 32-year-old software developer living in Seattle. I built a successful career far away from my small Midwestern hometown, where painful memories of my childhood still lingered. My father, Thomas, a former military man, ran our household with harsh discipline and criticism. Nothing I ever did seemed good enough for him. My mother, Diane, stood silently by, never defending me against his verbal onslaughts. She was the ultimate enabler, always making excuses for his behavior. Then there were my siblings. My sister Amanda was the golden child who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. Her achievements were celebrated lavishly, while mine were barely acknowledged. My brother Jacob followed in my father's footsteps, adopting the same belittling attitude toward me. Together they created an environment where I constantly felt inadequate and unwelcome. The humiliations piled up throughout my youth. I still remember my high school graduation when I gave a speech as class valedictorian. Instead of congratulating me, my father immediately pointed out how I mispronounced a word and criticized my posture. My mother nodded along, suggesting I should have practiced more. That evening, which should have been one of my proudest moments, ended with me alone in my room fighting back tears. When I received a full scholarship to study computer science at a prestigious university on the West Coast, my family ridiculed my choice. My father called it a useless degree for people who could not handle real work. My brother Jacob laughed and predicted I would drop out within a semester. My mother worried I was moving too far away, not out of concern for me, but because what would the neighbors think about their son abandoning the family? During my sophomore year of college, I brought home my first serious girlfriend for Thanksgiving. By dessert, my family had embarrassed me so thoroughly with inappropriate questions and thinly veiled insults that she broke up with me the next day. She said she could not imagine dealing with my family long term, and honestly, I could not blame her. The breaking point came during Christmas, 7 years ago. I had just landed my first major position at a tech company and was dating a wonderful woman named Jessica. When I shared my career news, my father dismissed it as just lucky timing in the industry. My brother asked if I actually had to work, or if I just played video games all day. When I showed them a picture of Jessica, my mother immediately commented on how she was not as pretty as my previous girlfriend, and probably just interested in my new salary. That night, I packed my bags and left without saying goodbye. I blocked their numbers and cut all contact. The years that followed were transformative. I threw myself into therapy with Dr. Winters, who helped me recognize the toxic patterns in my family and build healthier boundaries. My career flourished as I moved up to senior developer and eventually team lead. I cultivated a supportive circle of friends, including my best friend Ryan, who became like a brother to me, and my neighbor Martha, who always had wise advice and fresh cookies. I also met Sophia, a kind and understanding woman, who showed me what supportive love actually looked like. She never rushed me to talk about my family, and created a safe space where I could be vulnerable without fear of judgment. With her encouragement, I even joined a support group for adult children of emotionally abusive parents. For the first time, I felt truly accepted. 3 weeks before this Christmas, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was my mother, her voice immediately triggering old anxieties. She informed me that my father had suffered a minor heart attack. He was stable now, but it had been a wake-up call for the whole family. She pleaded for me to come home for Christmas, saying they all missed me terribly. Later that day, I received an email from my sister Amanda, expressing what seemed like genuine regret for her role in our family dynamics. She wrote that she had been doing some soul-searching and realized how unfairly I had been treated. Her message ended with a hope that we might reconnect. I sat with these communications for days, unsure how to proceed. During my next session with Dr. Winters, we discussed the possibility of reconnection. She cautioned me about expecting dramatic changes, but acknowledged that people sometimes do experience perspective shifts after health scares. We worked on setting clear boundaries and identifying exit strategies if things went south. After much deliberation, I decided to give my family one more chance. I spent weekends shopping for meaningful gifts. For my father, a rare first edition book on military history he had once mentioned wanting. For my mother, a handcrafted jewelry box similar to one her grandmother had owned. For Amanda, a collection of artisan teas from around the world, acknowledging her newfound interest in global cultures. For Jacob, premium tickets to see his favorite sports team. As I drove the 800 miles from Seattle to my hometown, my anxiety built with each passing mile. Sophia had offered to come with me, but I felt this was something I needed to face alone. I practiced the boundary-setting phrases Dr. Winters and I had rehearsed. I reminded myself that I was no longer the powerless child they once knew. I had built a life I was proud of, with or without their approval. When I finally turned onto the familiar street where I grew up, my heart raced. The house looked the same Christmas lights, hanging precisely as they always had. I parked behind my sister's car, took a deep breath, and gathered the first armload of presents. This was it, the moment of truth. The front door opened before I reached it. My mother stood there looking older than I remembered. Her hair had grayed significantly, and new lines framed her eyes. For a moment, genuine emotion crossed her face before she composed herself. "Clayton, you made it," she said, her voice wavering slightly. No hug, just an awkward gesture to come inside. My father appeared behind her, still imposing, despite looking thinner and more fragile than the robust man in my memories. "About time you showed up," he said, his tone already carrying that familiar edge. "We were beginning to think you would bail again." I forced a smile and stepped inside, the smell of pine and cinnamon bringing back a flood of memories. I placed the presents under the tree and made several more trips to the car, no one offering to help. With each passing minute, the weight of old patterns pressed heavier on my shoulders. Soon, extended family began to arrive. Aunt Patricia, my mother's sister, greeted me with what seemed like genuine warmth. She had always been somewhat of an ally, slipping me encouraging notes when I was younger. Uncle Robert, loud and oblivious as ever, clapped me on the back and immediately made a joke about me finally escaping my computer prison to join the real world. My cousins Mark and Jessica nodded politely, but kept their distance as if unsure how to interact with the family exile. During appetizers, my mother passed me a plate and added, "You might want to go easy on these, Clayton. Looks like the Seattle lifestyle includes a few extra pounds." She said this with a smile that did not reach her eyes. I felt my face flush but chose to redirect. "The food scene in Seattle is amazing," I replied, keeping my voice light. "I would love to tell you about some of my favorite restaurants there." My father scoffed. "Fancy restaurants. Waste of good money if you ask me." When everyone moved to the dining room, I offered to help with final preparations. My mother assigned me to set the table, then proceeded to rearrange everything I put down. "You never did learn the proper way to set a formal table," she sighed, as if this were a profound character flaw. My sister Amanda entered, looking me over with calculating eyes. "Nice sweater, Clayton. Is that what developers wear these days? At least it is better than those baggy jeans you used to love." The compliment wrapped in criticism was her specialty. Dinner itself became an escalating series of humiliations. My father questioned every aspect of my career success. "Tech bubble will burst soon enough," he predicted darkly. "Hope you have saved something for when it all comes crashing down. Though you never were good with money." My mother seized a lull in conversation to turn to the extended family. "Did I ever tell you about the time Clayton tried out for the baseball team? Coach called him the worst pitcher he had seen in 20 years. Everyone chuckled as my childhood embarrassment was served up for entertainment. "Seattle has made you soft," my brother Jacob commented when I mentioned enjoying hiking in the Pacific Northwest. "Those are not real mountains. You should try real outdoor sports sometime." Uncle Robert raised his glass. To Clayton, who finally remembered where he came from. Maybe next time you will bring a girlfriend. Though, after what happened with that last one, I understand if you are gun-shy. The table erupted in laughter at the reference to my college girlfriend. Amanda looked at me with feigned concern. Speaking of relationships, are you dating anyone serious? The biological clock ticks for men too, you know. Do you even want children? I felt my therapist's techniques slipping away as old wounds reopened. I excused myself to get water, finding momentary refuge in the kitchen, where Aunt Patricia joined me. They are being especially difficult tonight, she whispered. I am sorry, Clayton. For what it is worth, I always thought you were incredibly brave to build your own life. Her kindness nearly undid me. I took several deep breaths before returning to the dining room. The gift exchange should have been the highlight of the evening, but instead became another exercise in disappointment. I watched as my carefully selected presents were opened with tepid appreciation. My father barely glanced at the rare book before setting it aside. My mother commented that the jewelry box was interesting but not really her style. Amanda thanked me for the teas but immediately mentioned she was more into coffee these days. Jacob seemed genuinely pleased with the tickets until my father commented that Clayton was just trying to buy his way back into the family. When I opened my gifts, I found a generic gift card from my parents, with no personal message. Amanda gave me a self-help book with a note suggesting it might help with my family issues. Jacob did not get me anything at all, claiming he had not had time to shop. The breaking point came when my father clinked his glass for attention and began a speech about family loyalty. What started as seemingly heartfelt reflections on his health scare and the importance of family unity quickly devolved into pointed comments about my absence. Some people, he said, looking directly at me, think they are too good for family. They run away at the first sign of difficulty instead of sticking it out. Real men face their problems. I sat frozen, unable to believe he was twisting the narrative so completely. Then my mother delivered the final blow. If you had not abandoned us, maybe your father would not have had heart problems, she said softly, tears welling in her eyes. The stress of your absence has been so hard on him. Something snapped inside me. A calm clarity washed over me as I stood up my chair, scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. Without a word, I began gathering the presents I had brought, placing them back into the gift bags. What do you think you are doing? My father demanded, his face reddening. I continued calmly collecting my things. I came here hoping something had changed. Clearly I was wrong. I do not need to subject myself to this anymore. You always were so dramatic, my sister sniffed. My brother laughed, running away again. Some things never change. My mother began to cry more forcefully. How could you do this to us on Christmas? After your father's heart attack, I paused at the dining room doorway and turned to face them all. For years, I blamed myself for the dysfunction in this family. I worked through that in therapy and realized something important. I deserve respect. I deserve kindness. I do not have to earn it by tolerating abuse. You had your second chance. You wasted it. My father stood, fists clenched. If you walk out that door, do not bother coming back. With a sad smile, I replied, that was always the threat, was it not? Comply or be banished. It does not work anymore. I am choosing to leave. With that, I walked out, loaded my car, and drove away from the house, feeling both heartbroken and strangely liberated. The fantasy of family reconciliation had shattered, but in its place was something more valuable: self-respect. The drive to my hotel was a blur of streetlights and Christmas decorations through tears. Once in my room, I called Sophia, who answered immediately despite the late hour. How bad was it? She asked, her voice gentle. Worse than I imagined, I admitted, my voice breaking. Nothing has changed. Actually, they have gotten better at making their attacks seem like concern. Sophia listened as I recounted the evening in detail. Her supportive presence on the phone anchored me as I processed the swirl of emotions. There was grief for the family relationship I would never have, but also a strange validation. I had not been wrong all these years. The dysfunction was real, and I had made the right decision to protect myself. I am proud of you for walking away, Sophia said finally. That took incredible strength. As we talked, My phone buzzed repeatedly with incoming messages. My father sent a single text. Your disrespect tonight was unforgivable. This family has done nothing but support you. My mother left 3 tearful voicemails, each more dramatic than the last, about how I had ruined Christmas and broken her heart all over again. Surprisingly, my sister Amanda sent a different kind of message. What happened tonight was wrong. I am sorry I did not speak up. Can we talk tomorrow? I was too emotionally exhausted to respond to any of them. Most unexpected was a call from Aunt Patricia. I just wanted you to know that I think you did the right thing, she said. Your parents are telling everyone you had an unnecessary outburst, but several of us saw what really happened. Take care of yourself, Clayton. I decided to check out of the hotel and drive back to Seattle the next morning rather than stay the planned 3 days. During the long drive, I called Dr. Winters and put her on speakerphone, grateful for the emergency session. What you experienced is very common with estranged families, she explained. They expected you to slip back into your old role in the family system. When you refused, they escalated their tactics to try to force compliance. Her words helped frame what had happened in a way that made sense. This was not about me being too sensitive or having unrealistic expectations. This was about a family system resistant to change, unwilling to acknowledge their harmful patterns. When I finally arrived back at my apartment, Sophia was waiting with comfort food and open arms. As we sat on my couch, I felt the tension of the past few days begin to dissipate. I keep thinking I should feel worse about this, I admitted. But mostly I just feel relieved. That is your body telling you you made the right choice, she replied, squeezing my hand. In the week after Christmas, the messages from my family evolved in interesting ways. My parents' initial anger gradually transformed into desperate pleas. My mother sent a long email describing my father's health as declining due to the stress of my departure, though Aunt Patricia privately confirmed he was perfectly fine. My sister Amanda's messages showed the most genuine remorse. I have been thinking about patterns in our family, she wrote. I was part of the problem. The way they treated you versus me was never fair. New Year's Eve arrived, and instead of dwelling on family drama, I celebrated with Ryan, Martha, and Sophia. As we counted down to midnight, I realized I was surrounded by the family I had chosen, people who accepted and valued me just as I was. January brought an unexpected escalation in my family's attempts to reconnect. A package arrived from my mother containing childhood mementos, my high school valedictorian medal, some favorite books and photos I had left behind. There was no note, just these fragments of a past life returned. More surprising was a direct message from my father. While still peppered with excuses, it contained something I had never heard from him before. I am sorry for how I spoke to you at Christmas. I let my pride get in the way. Coming from a man who had never admitted fault in his life, this was significant. My sister Amanda sent a heartfelt letter, acknowledging the golden child dynamic that had shaped our relationship. I benefited from the way they treated you, she wrote. It was easier to go along with it than to question it. I want to do better. During this time, I continued processing these developments through various healing channels. My therapist suggested a journaling exercise where I wrote letters to each family member that I would never send, expressing my unfiltered feelings. Sophia and I had long conversations about what healthy family relationships should look like, drawing from her own close-knit family as an example. I also continued attending my support group, where others shared similar experiences of estrangement and reconciliation attempts. Their stories helped me feel less alone and provided perspective on different possible outcomes. Then in late January, the formal third chance request arrived. It was a group email sent from my mother's account but signed by my entire immediate family. They expressed regret for how Christmas had unfolded and acknowledged that they had failed to make Clayton feel welcome and respected. They promised family therapy and suggested Easter as a potential reunion opportunity. We understand now what we did wrong, the email claimed. We are ready to change. I read and reread this message many times, trying to discern genuine change from manipulation. Part of me wanted to believe transformation was possible. Another part remembered sitting at that Christmas table, feeling the same old pain resurface. The decision weighed heavily on me. The weeks following my family's request for a third chance became a period of intense personal growth. I doubled down on my therapy sessions with Dr. Say, 17. Winters often leaving her office emotionally drained but clearer about my own needs and boundaries. She introduced me to meditation and mindfulness practices that helped me stay centered when family thoughts threatened to overwhelm me. Healing is not linear. Dr. Winters reminded me during a particularly difficult session. Some days you will feel strong, and certain others you will question everything. Both are part of the process. I leaned heavily on my chosen family during this time. Ryan invited me to weekly basketball games that provided much-needed physical release. Martha checked in regularly with home-cooked meals and practical wisdom from her 67 years of life experience. And Sophia, my steadfast partner, created space for me to process aloud without judgment. "Whatever you decide about your family, I support you," she told me one evening, as we walked along the Seattle waterfront. "But I want you to make the decision from a place of strength, not obligation." That weekend, Sophia and I took a trip to a coastal bed and breakfast to give me mental space to make my decision. Walking along the windswept beach, watching waves crash against ancient rocks, I gained perspective. Those rocks had weathered countless storms, standing firm, despite relentless pressure. I could learn from their example. By Sunday evening, I had reached clarity about my response to my family's request. I would not close the door entirely, but neither would I walk through it unprotected. When we returned to Seattle, I drafted a detailed email outlining non-negotiable boundaries for any future contact. First, I requested individual specific apologies from each family member rather than the vague group statement they had sent. Second, I insisted they begin family therapy before any visit occurred, with proof of at least 3 sessions. Third, I proposed a short meeting in a public place before considering any holiday gatherings. Finally, I made clear that any renewal of past behaviors would result in immediate departure and another period of no contact. "This may seem harsh," I wrote, "but these boundaries protect both me and our potential relationship. True reconnection can only happen with mutual respect." My parents' initial reaction was predictably defensive. My mother called it jumping through hoops, and my father questioned why I could not just move forward without all the drama. I did not engage with their resistance, simply reiterating that my boundaries were non-negotiable. After a week of silence, they reluctantly agreed to my terms. My sister Amanda surprised me with her response. Not only did she immediately accept my conditions, but she also shared that she had already started individual therapy. "I realize now how the family dynamics shaped all of us in unhealthy ways," she wrote. "I am working to understand my part in it." Over the following weeks, she became an unexpected ally in the family healing process, sometimes mediating between me and our parents. As I stood firm in my boundaries, other areas of my life began to flourish. At work, I pursued a promotion I had been hesitant to apply for, channeling the confidence that came from advocating for myself with my family. To my delight, I received the position along with recognition for projects I had led over the past year. My relationship with Sophia deepened as well. Our shared journey through my family issues had created a profound trust between us. With the support of Ryan and Martha, I began planning a summer proposal, designing a ring that incorporated blue sea glass from our meaningful weekend at the coast. 3 months after Christmas, I agreed to meet my parents at a coffee shop halfway between Seattle and my hometown. The neutral territory provided safety, while still allowing for face-to-face conversation. Walking into the cafe, I spotted them immediately. My mother nervously adjusting her scarf. My father sitting stiffly in his chair. The meeting had difficult moments. My father struggled to maintain his new, more respectful behavior, occasionally slipping into old patterns before catching himself. My mother vacillated between genuine insight and reflexive defensiveness. Yet there were also moments of real connection I had never experienced with them before. Brief glimpses of the parents I had always wished for. At one point, my father actually asked about my work with genuine interest rather than judgment. My mother mentioned she had been reading books about emotional intelligence, something she would have dismissed as nonsense years earlier. These were small steps but significant ones. As I drove back to Seattle that evening, I reflected on the profound lessons this journey had taught me. I had learned that forgiveness does not require making yourself vulnerable to the same hurt. It is possible to wish people well, while maintaining the distance necessary for your own well-being. I had discovered that blood relation does not entitle anyone to mistreat you. Family should earn your presence through respect and care, just like any other relationship. The accident of shared DNA creates opportunity for connection, not obligation to endure abuse. Perhaps most importantly, I had realized that standing up for yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. The people who love you properly want you to have strong boundaries. Those who resist your boundaries are revealing their own issues, not highlighting a problem with you. I had also learned that healing happens on your own timeline, not according to others' expectations. Some wounds take years to heal, and that is perfectly acceptable. There is no standard schedule for recovering from family trauma. Finally, I had come to appreciate that chosen family can be more nurturing than birth family. The people who choose to love you, who stay when they could leave, who celebrate your authentic self, these are true family connections, whether or not they share your surname. Today, my relationship with my birth family continues to evolve. We maintain limited boundaried contact. Some interactions are positive. Others remind me why I needed distance in the first place. I no longer expect perfection from them or from myself in navigating these complex relationships. The most significant change has been internal. I no longer define myself by their perception or approval. I am Clayton, a successful software developer, a loving partner, a loyal friend, and a person worthy of respect, not because of what I achieve or provide, but simply because I exist. I believe continued healing is possible for all of us. Not the perfect family harmony depicted in holiday movies, but perhaps something real and sustaining. Time will tell. Have you ever had to set firm boundaries with family members who hurt you? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to walk away from toxic relationships, even family ones. Remember that your worth is not determined by those who failed to see it. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you courage on your own journey to self-respect and healing.